everybody. This is Doug Fine from Defined Performance Solutions, and I'm in Augusta, Georgia, and I'm talking to Mr. Kevin Eikenberry, who has been in the leadership development realm and practice for many years now. He's extremely successful. He's a worldwide success. He goes all over the place doing his thing, and I've admired him for a great number of years, actually. I know you have a lot of fans, a lot of former clients out there, and that really know how good you are at what you do. So I would like to just take a second and share Kevin's bio with you. Kevin is a recognized world expert on leadership development and learning, and is the Chief Potential Officer of the Kevin Eikenberry Group. He spent more than 25 years helping organizations across North America and leaders from around the world on leadership, learning, team and teamwork, communications, and more. Twice he's been named by Inc.com as one of the top 100 leadership and management experts in the world. And he's been included in many other similar lists. He's the author, co-author, or a contributing author to nearly 20 books, including Remarkable Leadership and bestseller From Bud to Boss, Secrets of Successful Transition to Remarkable Leadership. Thank you, Kevin, for the little commercial. That's awesome. And he did that Bud to Boss with a gentleman named Guy Harris. He also has authored The Long Distance Leader, Rules for Remarkable Remote Leadership. And he's done that with Wayne Turmel. His blog is consistently ranked among the world's best, most read, and most shared on leadership. So, Kevin, how does anybody compete with that?
Well, first of all, thank you for reading the introduction that my mother wrote. And second of all, I'm not used to I've heard some of that before, of course, and usually, it's someone saying at the front of the room and I'm standing off to the side. So it's kind of strange to stand here or to sit here in my office and know that some people might actually be watching me while you're saying that. That's why I thought the books might be helpful to sort of cover things up.
Super.
I also noticed that if I lean back, it doesn't look like my hair's quite so gray. So maybe I should just sit like this the rest of the time, Doug.
Well, Kevin, I would say that you're lucky to have hair, So.
Well, I actually agree with that. I mean, I see that I have more than you.
Yes,
but you know what? For a long time, I was. People thought I was younger than I am, and that doesn't happen anymore.
That day will come for me, because a lot of people will say that, like, you're really this old? And I am, but I'm extremely emotionally immature. That's my deal. Hey, so I want to ask you, how did you get into this work? What I'd love to know the lead up to actually going out on your own and being Kevin Eikenberry, the man and the legend.
Well, there's a couple of ways to talk about the story.
Sure.
I'll start here, and I'll say that I believe, Doug, that I'm doing the work I was put on the earth to do. I mean, I believe that I am a blessed person to have found that, and to recognize that that's what I found. And so, whatever success that I have doesn't really come from me. It comes from those around me, and certainly from my Creator. So I will start there. If you want to get into the nuts and bolts of the process, I grew up on a farm in Michigan in agricultural businesses. Always felt like I would probably wanted to work for myself or be a business person, be a business owner, entrepreneur. Thought that I would at one point would go home to the family business and help expand that. Some things didn't quite turn out, which is perfectly fine. Again, I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yes.
So, but I worked in corporate America for a very large company. Very large, Chevron. You may have heard of them. And started out in sales and marketing, was there a few years, took the job not looking for a job because I had a business plan. I was going to start a company, not doing this. And while I was there, found out that I got the chance to do some of this kind of work. I had taught classes in graduate school as well. But when I got to Chevron and was in sales and marketing, I found my way, figured out that there were people that did training and development, like many people listening, for a living, figured out how to get myself there, got myself there, became responsible for the training of trainers for Chevron around the world and a variety of other things, took some courses in adult learning to learn more about all that. And then almost as we speak, almost 26 years ago, I left and started the company that we now call the Kevin Eikenberry Group. So there's the slightly longer version.
That's awesome. I had a father-in-law, my late father-in-law worked for Chevron for an entire career. He was a civil engineer.
There you go. Lots of them, lots of engineers, lots of really smart and great engineers.
Yes,
there.
yes, yes.
Sure.
So I want to talk first about the highlights of Bud to Boss. I haven't read the book yet, but we always, I know you're surprised.
Come on, Doug.
Well, I'll just give you my address. You just inscribe it and send it on my way, on your way.
There we go. Here it is, everybody. Right here, from Bud to Boss. There you go.
So I know.
So what do you want to talk about?
Well, I know that we always talk about how important it is for new supervisors, new managers to switch their mindset, switch their practice, switch their beliefs about what they're doing. So what are some highlights there that you want to make sure that a new manager or new supervisor understands from the get-go?
Well, that's a big question. Let me start here and say this. Here's what I think where most organizations mess this up. Let me start there. It's not the question you asked. But let me start there instead. I think where most organizations mess this up is that they know they've got to give some training to their new leaders, but what they give them is how to stay out of jail. Like we make sure that we do a little bit about what kind of questions you ask when you hire, what you can't do here and there, and how to deal with the policies and procedures. And I don't mean to make light of any of that, of course. Like we end up teaching the policies, procedures, the laws, and all of that stuff, and that's important. But what we don't do is give them any preparation or any way to be successful at doing this brand new thing they've never done before. And I believe that the first time you become a leader is the single most challenging and maybe most important transition of your career. Because we do have to shift from a mindset of being an individual contributor with a set of work that looks like this is my work, to being a leader, a supervisor, a manager, a boss. And I've got management work to do, I've got leadership work to do, and I've still got work to do. And sometimes that work is still awfully close to what I did before. And so it's really easy for me to go do that stuff that I know and that I like.
You got to get that done.
And it got me promoted, right? So the shift is people need to be, if you're out there working with new leaders, the first thing you've got to do is give them super clear expectations about what does it look like and what do you want them to do as a leader. Because if you don't, in a vacuum, they'll end up leading like those they've been led by.
Absolutely.
Unless they knew that was awful, and then they just try to do anything except that, which isn't necessarily right or successful either. If that makes sense.
Kevin, when you're talking, if I'm really smiling like really wide, it's because you're saying things that I believe and have taught myself. You know, it's just you have to. An organization has to, and I would say so few organizations actually have spelled out what they want their leaders to be, what they want their new supervisors to be. Unless they have someone like you or me, it's like they're not. There's no going forward with a new leader if they don't have a plan about how they want their leaders to be.
And here's the thing: we ought to have that organizationally,
yes,
but we may not have that organizationally. So
right.
If you're watching or listening to us right now, and you're a leader of leaders, you're the boss of leaders, then you don't sit there and say, "Well, yeah, Kevin and Doug are right. I wish our organization had all that stuff." Stop it.
Yeah.
You have control over what happens with your leaders. So set those expectations, have those conversations, do that. What does it look like to be successful here? You can have those conversations outside of what's going on organizationally. And sometimes lots of organizations have done the good work, some better than others, but have done the good work of setting clear competencies. Now, competencies have kind of become a consultant-y term that has not everyone feels great about, right? Has some baggage associated with it. But the big idea there is, here are the things that it looks like to be a successful leader here. Two big problems with that. Number one is that they're often set too lofty, or they're for more senior leaders, and so it's hard for that frontline leader or first-time leader to connect with them, number one. And number two, they're often not specific enough. They're very motherhood and apple pie. And
Yeah.
who would argue with them, but they're not specific enough, and there's too many of them.
Well, you know, when you talked about there's this grand thing about competencies, I'm going to ask you something very specific, and it takes it down to the very nut of being a new supervisor or manager. If you had a bud in your former work and now you're their supervisor or their manager, and you were Facebook friends with them, you know, after the promotion, yes or no? Facebook
it depends. It depends. So I will say that there are almost all of the members of my team I am friends with on Facebook. So I'll start there.
Sure.
Do I think that you must or you shouldn't? I don't know. I think you have to make that call. Here's what I will say. That if you do, you can't, when you see their posts, take off your leader hat. Which means if you see posts all weekend about the wonderful and wild weekend they had and they call in sick on Monday, you can't take off your leader hat. So if you're going to remain Facebook friends, you need to have clear expectations and boundaries. And this is actually bigger than just Facebook friends. It's about anyone who I was friends with and now I'm their boss. We've got to have a conversation about the expectation about how we're going to work together, what that means, and all of that. Now, if I decide, well, I'm not going to stay Facebook friends with them because now I'm their boss, and you decide to unfriend them, you got to talk to them and tell them that. Because if you don't have that conversation, you have just created another set of maybe unintended consequences that you didn't want. So I think at the end of the day, it's your call. But I think you have to. I do think this, that it's never our job as a leader to make friends. It is, I believe, part of our job to be friendly. Right. But it is not our job to make friends. In fact, I'm actually recording a video this afternoon.
I saw that recently.
Yeah, for our remarkable TV series that we have on YouTube and on my blog and other places. That's about the word relatedness. And I think we all want to talk about friends or not friends, Facebook and all that stuff. I'm actually going to talk about this afternoon. This is great because now I'll do a better job with my video. So thank you, Doug. But here's the thing. I think if you focus on the word relatedness, which Merriam-Webster says is about having or creating an association or a connection. I think it's a connection or relatedness that we want and we need. We don't need to be friends. The other problem with the word friends, or even your question, Doug, some people have got 81 Facebook friends, some people have 18, and some people have 807. So like how we even define the word friend is different for almost all of us who are watching this. So I just think the real nub of your question is about being clear about what the relationship needs to look like, and you having a responsibility as a leader that you can't take off the company hat in certain situations. You can't take it on and off just because you want to or it's uncomfortable to leave it on.
Gotcha. You see that C over my shoulder there? This shoulder.
I do.
That stands for connection. You know, this magic model is what's going to bring for engagement is meaning, autonomy, growth, impact, and connection. If those things are running on all cylinders, the person's going to be engaged.
No doubt.
That's what I bring to the market. So here we go. Tell us a little bit more. I saw on your website you offer a free consultation with the Kevin Eikenberry, or maybe a member of your team. What does that entail?
Well, there are ways to do that in different situations. But certainly, what that entails is we want to understand what's going on in your organization, what's happening, if someone raises their hand and wants to do that, there's some reason that they want to do it. Right. And so we want to understand what the organizational situation is, what the pain is, if you will. We work hard and we pride ourselves in trying to build a trusted advisor relationship with people. Right. And so one of the things I'm most proud of in 26 years, Doug, is the number of clients that I could say that we've worked with for 10 or more years. And it's a bunch. So that says something about what we're trying to build is to be, and I said this earlier, in our partnership with our client to help them get the results that they want. So an opening conversation is just that, is to see what's going on. Is there a fit? Is there a connection? Is it going to work for both of us? And is there something we can actually provide for them now or not? Sometimes what we learn is that, hey, you're not ready. You don't need us. You're a person that's having that conversation with us isn't really that decision maker. Here are some resources that will help you where you're at. We just want to have an open conversation.
Great.
To get a sense of where you're at.
How long do those normally last?
With me, those open conversations are 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay,
yep.
Great.
Yep. That first one, yep.
Would you be willing to riff a little bit about your thoughts on employee engagement and employee experience and the role that leadership plays in having an engaged workforce and being engaged themselves?
So, always dangerous to have the expert ask you the question. So let me say this. So I would say that what you said at the very end is maybe the most important thing. Lots of stuff's being written about, talked about engagement and what organizations need to do to engage people. But it's like a marriage. Mm-hmm. People say, if we went into the marriage and said, well, the man has to do all this stuff, then we would all look at that kind of askance and say, well, there's another person involved in this here, right? When we could say the man and the woman, that's not meant to be anything there, right? So some people will say, well, a marriage is a 50% thing. We got to come together. I'm like, no, it's 100%. And that coming from a guy who just recently been married 33 years. So I don't have it all figured out, but I know this, we got to both be all in. And so there are a lot of things that leaders and organizations can do to create engagement magic, as you described. And we need to be expecting that from others, from the team. In other words, this isn't something, engagement is not something we do to people. It's not something that leaders are going to do and then make it happen. It requires both sides. And we need to be expecting, and I say expecting as in, here's what I'm looking for in an employee. And here's what I mean by engagement. Here's what I mean by ownership. Here's what we're looking for. Because here's the thing. Most people, when they know what you're really looking for, will either work to get there or choose to not be there. But if we don't set a clear set of expectations, just like we were talking about with new supervisors, people can't, how do we expect people to get there if they don't know where there is?
Exactly. The group I'm affiliated with, DecisionWise, I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but they're out in Springville, Utah. They're a great group. They do engagement surveys. They actually design this engagement magic training that I specialize in. And they put up, we teach 50-50. Like it's a 50-50 proposition that an organization and an employee have to both be doing their part to have an engaged organization.
We're in agreement. I'm just playing with the language, right?
No,
but we're in agreement. We're in agreement that this isn't something we do to them. This is something that everyone comes together to create, because when we have engagement, everything gets better for everybody, not just the organizational results. This isn't something that I want you to do so we can get something. This is something where everybody wins. And so that's where we need to get to.
Think about that. I guess I'm doing my own little commercial here, Kevin, but think about meaning, autonomy, growth, impact, and connection. See, that's what a leader needs with their organization, and that's what a contributor needs in their organization and for themselves. Meaning, autonomy. It's really brilliant.
I would start with meaning. Let's just start with meaning for a second.
Let's go for it.
That I would say is about meaning. That if we don't, you're never going to get highly engaged folks if they don't see meaning in their work. If they don't see how what they're doing is connected to something bigger than them, outside of them, how it serves others, you'll never get there. Yes. Like, so we could take any one of them and say that, but if you get the first one, you got a way better shot at getting the rest.
Fantastic.
Why am I interested? I may have self-interest in growing, right? But I'm going to want to grow in ways that match up with the needs of the organization when I see that, when I have that magnetic pull toward this meaningful big reason why. And so, we could hook them all together in that regard, but it all starts with meaning.
Yeah, cool. Hey, I downloaded some of you have what is the page on your site that has your quotes and things like that?
Yeah, I don't know which page it is, but there is one.
I'm gonna just read a couple, and I would love for you, because some of them there's just people listening today and watching. This is evidence of Kevin's brilliance. That's what I'm going to say at first. So
what am I supposed to do? Just sit here? What do you want me to do, Doug?
Just when I read it off, you just go off a little bit on where that came from, okay? Because some of the stuff is awesome. Art that only comes from the head isn't any good. Someone said that, a guy named Austin Kleon, and I know I'm aware of this gentleman. He's brilliant. But you said neither is leadership. Art that
say it all again so people hear it all together, then I'll comment.
Sure. Art that only comes from the head isn't any good. Neither is leadership.
Well, it's true. I mean, leadership isn't, first of all, there's way more. Leadership is about two things at the end of the day, and neither of them about us. Leadership is about outcomes and others. And so both of them require more of us than logic and mental and our mind, because to get the kind of results that we want require people to bring their emotions to the table, and obviously the humans that we work with are emotional, and so we can't get there with just our head. Not possible. It's just not possible.
You see me smiling?
I do.
In the engagement definition that we use with DecisionWise, it's heart, head, hands, and spirit.
Oh, you almost got to 4-H there. You stopped short. But here's the thing. Here's the thing for all of those who have a 4-H background. Here's the thing I would say is that I was just listening to a video or watching a video earlier this morning for a few minutes of one of my mentors who happens to be very ill right now and who happens to be in the marketing and direct response copywriting business. His name is Dan Kennedy. And he was talking about a fact that we all know. But in this video clip, he was talking about this idea that no one buys anything based on fact. We all buy things based on emotion, and we all make decisions based on emotion, and we all do our work based on emotion, and we all make every decision, not just buying decisions, but whether I'm going to do this work today or not, or whether I'm going to give it 100% or 75%, or whether I'm going to come to work, like all of it has an emotional component. Change is all about emotion. Yes, we need the facts. The facts are never enough. There's no such thing as the perfect PowerPoint deck. It's going to make anyone change or get anyone to do anything. So leadership from the head only is not gonna work. Just not.
Yes. Here's another one this one's from, let me make sure it's from you, Kevin. Oh yeah, Kevin. Learn to balance.
Well, I can still talk about it, but don't credit me if I didn't say it, all right?
No, you did. Learn to balance your focus between getting results and building relationships.
So there it is, results and relationships, outcomes and others. It's the same thing. In the long distance leader book, we talk about the 3O model of leadership: outcomes, others, and ourselves. We can't take ourselves out of it, but it's not about us, right? Who we are, what we bring to it matters. But we must balance results and relationships. We know leaders. We've all seen leaders who are, well, let's take it as a sports analogy. Mm-hmm. And I'll take it to the extreme. But you'll hear coaches called players coaches. And I think what they're saying is that they're really focused on their team. They're really focused on those relationships. They care about their team. And that's good, right? But sometimes that's said in a positive frame. Sometimes it's said in a bit of a derogatory frame. Like they're a player's coach, but they don't get any results. Like they're not winning any games, right? And then and so the thing is, we got to find the balance between those two always. It's always a creative tension between the two. And the mistakes that we make are when we lean too far in either direction. So finding the balance is the key.
I used to say people task. Yeah. And I think I'm at the point now, Kevin, though, where I say people, because people do the tasks. And
notice what's different between what I'm saying and there's a slight difference between what I'm saying and what you said. It's not people task, it's people result. See, there's a difference between doing the thing and getting the result, right? So outcome or result. Because if we get stuck in tasks, so that's like the difference between activity and accomplishment. Absolutely. People say, well, I'm busy doing a lot of stuff. I could freaking care if you're busy. I want to know if we're getting results. Like it's outcomes that matter. It's accomplishments that matter. It's not just I'm busy doing stuff. So that I think is the tweak. Yes, if I'm choosing between people and tasks, I'm probably going to balance more toward people. But I think the right balance, or not the right balance, a different balance
Sure.
is results, relationships, or
Yes.
outcomes in others.
Thank you for clarifying, and I got you. I just learned something. Guess what? I just learned something more extra from you today. So here's the next one, and this is from you. The best coaches help people reach their potential in the context of organizational success.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I mean, if you're a life coach, I suppose, then the context might be different. But if we're talking about the leader as a coach, that means that I'm helping people move towards their potential. But there's still an organizational component to this, right? There's still making sure this is benefiting the organization. And so, if I've got a team member who, I don't know, making this up, wants to become a championship gardener, then there may not be a great connection here back to our team, right? So I can support them, I can believe in them, I can even help coach them in that way, but I may be coaching them to no longer be here, right? And I suppose that's fine. But I think that putting that part of, I'm choosing to talk about that quote in that last part in the context of the organizational success. But if we talk about the first part, helping people reach their potential. So here's a point I'll leave everyone with there, and that is you cannot be a successful coach to someone you do not believe can be successful.
Wow.
Not possible. Why? Now, here's what I mean. Does that mean that I think that I have to believe anyone can do any job? No. Do I believe, if I'm coaching Doug, do I believe that Doug can be successful in the job he's in and probably one more? If I don't think he's capable, if I don't think he can get there, or if I don't think he ever will get there, I will never coach him as successfully as I could. I will come up short. I will not be dedicated. I'll roll my eyes. Well, there's just Doug. What do you expect? Like, my belief is going to short circuit any chance of him being successful. And my belief in him is going to short circuit his own belief in himself.
It's that self-fulfilling prophecy, right? It's just, it's what is it? McGregor, leadership styles, X and Y and all that. It's like, if you don't believe in your people, you're gonna just think that they can't get it done, so they're not going to get it done.
So let's take this. Let's say I got two people.
Yeah.
That work for. One, I think I got Rodney the rock star, and I've got Charlene the seat performer, right? And what did I call him? Rodney says something, and Rodney does something doesn't quite meet what I needed. What do I say? I say, he'll get it. He'll get it next time. I know he'll get that. Charlene doesn't do it. I'm like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
I didn't know if she'd get there. She may get there someday, man. I didn't expect it the first time. It's going to take a while for her to get there. This.
Exactly. So here we go. Another one from the great Kevin Eikenberry. Want to be a better listener? Ooh, this is hard. This punch is hard. You know what you said after this? Want to be a better listener? Be less selfish and more curious. Ouch.
Well, I mean, we can all take that, advice at one time or another. Here's the thing. I mean, I don't remember when I wrote that exactly.
Right.
I mean, I'm proud that I wrote it. It's a true statement. And I'm confident that I probably wrote it on a day when I was reflecting on my poor listening performance. We talk about the word selfish and we talk about it with our children, as a parent. We don't want our kids to be selfish and all those sorts of things. And there's a lot of judgment in that word. And so sometimes I don't want to consider myself to be selfish and all that sort of thing. I think if we could start with this, if I'm focused on myself, I'm not going to listen very well. But if I'm focused on the other person, I'm more likely to listen better. So the opposite of selfish is selfless, right? So if I'm thinking about myself less, I'm more likely to be curious in what the other person has to say and how they feel and what's underneath the words, so that I will be I just will be. When we do that, we'll be a better listener. And let me say this, Doug, when we do that as a leader, as the boss, it has an even bigger impact.
Absolutely.
Because when someone really listens to us, what are they telling us? that we care.
You
right?
matter.
The meta message of listening isn't just message received. The meta message of listening is I care. Well, get it right. The meta message of listening, the other person cares about me enough to use their most precious resource, which is their time and attention, on me. That person cared about me and my message enough to put down their devices and turn off their other stuff and focus on me. And when we do that as the boss, that is, people say, well, how do I build trust with my teams? I say, listen. If you will really listen to others, it is the single fastest way to build trust in a relationship.
Thank you. I got a couple more, believe it or not, because this is so cool what we're doing here. I think it's cool.
Well, just so everybody knows, I am working without an ad. I have no idea what he's going to say.
You have no idea.
No clue.
So here is another one from you. Coaching is more about we than me, more about conversation and discovery than advice.
Well, there's another hard one for me sometimes because, and sometimes people come to us as the boss, or you in I's case as the consultant, wanting advice. And it doesn't mean that we can never give advice, but here's the thing. Think about when people offer you advice, how do you often take it? Well, that's maybe not. But when you are in a conversation and you discover something yourself, when you have ownership of the idea, then there's no defensiveness there because it's yours. People don't argue with their own data. So here's the thing. Our job as a coach is to influence others to make a different choice. Maybe to help them to see that there's a choice, or maybe to help them to make a different choice. But as a coach, we can't make them. As a coach, all we can do is help them do something different. And the best way to do that is to make sure that they're accepting and seeing it themselves. So the more that we help them discover it, this doesn't mean flounder. This doesn't mean never answer their question. It's not like sound like a snake oil salesman and saying, well, what do you think? Always. But what it is that at the end of the day, they have to feel like, hey, we came to this, or Kevin helped me get there, but I got this. I know what I need to do. This makes sense to me. I'm in. Because until then, it's like, okay, that's fine, Kevin. Thank you so much. And now maybe I'll do it and maybe I won't, or that seems really hard or whatever. It's got to be coming from a place of, we are in the influence business. We're not in the make them do it business.
Right. And that's exactly what the best coaches do. I mean, they start off with the fundamental premise that a lot of the answers exist within the person that you're coaching or you're helping. And you just try to get it out of them and then encourage them to go forth and execute what they find to be the answer for themselves. You agree?
Like many other things in life, I agree with that. And
yeah.
Like many other things in life, taken to the extreme, that's a problem because some coaches or some models of coaching go so far that way as to never put in the last one about the context of the organization back in. Right. And so this isn't completely 100% laissez-faire and let me help you figure it out because I'll just say it.
I'm hearing you.
Taken to the extreme, there are unintended consequences that aren't what you want, which could lead to bad decisions or frustration from the person who's like, give me something here. All you're doing is keep asking me questions. There's got to be more than just asking.
Very good. Very good. Thank you for that too. Last one. And he's got a bunch, people. I was trying to copy and paste them. You know how many pages in a Word document? I
have no idea.
44. Remarkable leaders.
All words, but anyway.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Remarkable leaders want more creative thinking, so they let people be creative.
Well, hello. Here's how to write things that people might think are brilliant. Just say what's true. If people are looking to us, they are expecting us to set the boundaries and the expectations. And so if every time they come up with a creative idea, we say, well, that's a bad idea. Or if every time a creative idea comes up, cold water gets thrown on them by us or someone else on the team, what I call the cold water comments, then what are people going to do? Well, they're going to quit bringing them. So we got to let them. And so everyone says, oh, it's great for people to be creative, but some people don't want to like the idea that people might make a mistake. Well, you can't have one without the other, right? So what we got to do is create a net so that we don't make awful mistakes, or we don't make the same mistake 5 times, or things like that. But that's really.
That's it for those things. But I want to ask a question. Just came to me. Do you think there is enough time to be a great leader? Enough time in a leader's day to be a great leader of people?
Well, we all have the same amount of time.
Right.
And so if anyone is a great leader, that means that any of us could be, right? So from a time perspective, I think the big thing I would say about the time perspective is that many people, including many leaders, don't do a very good job of managing their productivity. I don't believe there is such a thing as time management, because I think we all have the same amount of it. I think it's not a time management question. It's a choice management question. I just spent, it's so funny that you ask that question, Doug, because for the members of our Remarkable Way ongoing leadership learning process, people can go to kevinikenberry.com/way to get on to the next time that gets open. We're spending the whole month on that idea, how to get more of the right things done. And more of the right things done, including doing the important things and not just the urgent things. It means doing the things the thinking time we need and not just doing. It means having time to have the ongoing coaching conversations with our team and not just getting the work done, and on and on and on. See, all of those are choices. And so fundamentally, the answer to your question, do I think there is enough time? Yes. Do I think most people are figuring out how to do that? No. Can you? Yeah. Are you going to have to change your behavior? Yes. Are you going to have to get a little less attached to the adrenaline rush of dealing with the urgent? Yes. Are you going to have to be more intentional about a whole bunch of the choices that you make in your day and with your calendar? Yes. You need to focus more on the compass and less on the clock. Yes. There you go. There's my answer.
If you want a new workshop name for yourself and your business, here's a free one. Okay.
I'm writing it down. I'm ready.
Time choices for leaders. It's not time management for leaders, it's time choices. And you have a whole thing about what you say is important as a leader and how you have to make the time. You have to make those choices to be what you want to be as a leader. Time choice. Maybe can I do it?
And let me say this. I need to say this because you've been so effusive in your praise of me throughout this, which almost to the degree, to be honest, of being uncomfortable. I know it's coming from a good place and I appreciate it, but let me just say this. We've talked about coaching, we talked about listening, we talked about time management or productivity, what do you want to call it?
Right.
All these things. Listen, I'm leading a team every day, just like all of you guys that are watching and listening. And I'm working on every one of these things every day. And I can tell you that someone asked me once, what book, a long time ago actually, what book did you learn the most from about leadership? And I said, mine. And they looked at me very funny. And I said, no, let's be careful here. You didn't say what's the best book on leadership. You asked which book did I learn the most from. And I can guarantee you that the book I learned the most from was the ones that I've written, because it codifies what I believe and what I know to be true. And it holds me accountable and challenges me to lead with my team who have read the books in a way that is consistent with those things.
They teach.
So I'm on this path just like everybody else every day. And I don't want anyone to leave here thinking, well, la-di-da, Kevin. Like, I'm leading just like all of you. I'm struggling with all these things. Maybe I'm a little further along on some of them. And I'm human, so some days better than others.
And it ain't easy.
I felt I needed to share that.
I appreciate you doing that. It ain't easy. It ain't easy. It's a tough job. It's tough.
I work with people at NASA.
Yeah.
Ask people at NASA which is harder, building a rocket or leading people.
Wow. I know.
Leading people.
Yeah.
And it's a freaking rocket, everybody.
I know. When I do a basic supervisor training, I always say, somewhere in the training, I just say, probably at the beginning, that I learn something from this every day. I have to look at like what I'm telling you or what I'm suggesting you do or not do. I have the same issue. You know, I need to get better too with this very basic stuff. I'm teaching them basic stuff, you know. Guess what? There's the bell. I'm going to shut off
There's
the bell.
Class dismissed.
Yeah, Kevin, thank you so much for the time you spent, and I'm gonna get this out across the world, and you can have again a great influence on people. And you know, the time we spent here was very cool for me, and I hope you enjoyed the time too.
I did very much, and I hope everyone did as well. Thanks, Doug, for having me. And anyone, you can always reach out to me. Anyway, if you can find us, KevinEichenberry.com, info@KevinEichenberry.com will get it to me.
Kevin Eichenberry Group.
Let me know what we can do to help.
LinkedIn, Facebook. You have Facebook presence? All
Everywhere.
of that.
You can
All
find
right.
us.
Thank you, Kevin.